Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I am super excited today. We'll be talking to Mary Burrell, and she has a very fascinating story about resilience, about her journey from being on hospice to being here today. And so I'm excited to share about that. The title for our event today, our webinar today, is When Patients Lead, Bridging Clinical Research, Mental Health, and Humanity. So, Mary is a heart valve disease survivor, hospice graduate, and founder of Heartbridge Collective, a patient-led community uniting patients, caregivers, clinicians, and innovators. She bridges the gap between lived experience and medical innovation. After receiving a second chance on life through the early feasibility EVOKE tricuspid valve trial, Mary turned her journey into a mission to educate, empower, and elevate patient voices through storytelling, mentorships, and her podcast, Heart to Heart Talk, where we speak from the heart for the heart. She continues to inspire connection and change in the heart health community. Thank you so much for joining us, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Marlyn. I'm really excited to share.
Yes, I am awesome. So as you guys know, I work in increasing awareness for clinical trials and helping sites build trust. And so when I met Mary, right? We've only met online on LinkedIn, right? Mary reached out and I was like, yes, let's connect. Let's connect. And because she's a patient and she has the story, and really that's what we're trying to get out there, get more people to know the story behind clinical trials, like why humanity and healing must coexist in research. Um, so, Mary, I'll just start. Can you share a little bit about what your journey is like? Maybe from your diagnosis to becoming a patient advocate?
Sure. Thank you, Marlyn. So, when I was diagnosed with torrential tricuspid valve regurgitation, my doctor saw it coming. We knew well, we were all well aware of what was happening. Because I'm not a candidate for any surgery and medication therapy wasn't working, I entered into hospice. I spent 2 years in hospice waiting for a miracle, making promises to God, not knowing how I was going to keep those promises. So I had heard of clinical trials before, but that
Hmm.
was the extent of my knowledge. So when my doctor suggested that there was a clinical trial in Portland, that he could make an urgent referral, I was all excited because that was the only option left for me.
Yeah.
And so my experience from that point was a little different. So
Okay.
I had applied twice for acceptance and was denied twice because the annulus and where my tricuspid valve sits was too large for the largest evoke they made at the time. That and my heart is shaped like an avocado.
Oh,
So,
can you share with us a little bit more? I know there's a lot of words like the evoke and the tricuspid valves. Can you tell us what exactly was happening to your heart, and um can you tell us more about the disease that you had? Like, was it the valves not closing, if I'm remembering right, or
right.
just like
So,
go more in depth, like,
okay.
yeah, so we can understand what you were dealing with on a day to day. Yeah.
Okay. So, um, tricuspid valve regurgitation, the blood was not going in the direction it was meant to go. It was
Mm-hmm.
backing up into my cavity. And so, what that felt like was, well, I shuffled. I could not pick up one foot to walk. So, I shuffled. I walked the walls. I would hold on to the wall so I could get from wherever I needed to go. Breathing, I was short of breath, just sitting, not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And fatigue, the fatigue, it's not like you can go and take a 2 hour nap and feel refreshed. This
Mhm.
was much deeper than that. For me to simply get up out of a chair, I needed help. Couldn't do it on my own.
Mhm.
So it was not a great way to live. Not a great way to live. Um, I guess I should have prefaced this that how I got the torrential tricuspid valve regurgitation was because of an idiopathic lung disease I was diagnosed 30 plus years ago.
Mhm.
So eventually the heart was affected, and then it was started with congestive heart failure and then moved on into AFib, A flutter, which is the fast erotic heartbeat, into the torrential tricuspid valve regurgitation. And up until when I participated in the trial was I first started testing in 20, I first entered a hospice in 2018. So 18 and 19, all of that was dealing with um, fighting for my life. And then in late 2019, I was finally accepted into the clinical trial. They had, the process was interesting. Um, I was very full of fluid. And so the doctors thought that if they would put me in the hospital and diurese me, meaning hook me up to an IV to drain
Mhm.
this excess fluid, that essentially that annulus would shrink as well. And I
Mhm.
would fit that largest evoke they were making,
Okay.
the replacement valve. And so, excuse me, I went through that process, and um, it was exciting because the process did work, but it didn't work as well as they thought. I still couldn't get approved for the study.
Mhm.
So I went home, and that emptiness, first of all, just the emptiness and the silence in between um, applying. You know, you're all attention, you go
Yeah.
in, you apply, and then there's radio silence, waiting to find out what's going on, what's the results. So that happened twice for me. The second time, I I I remember I was in my cardiologist's office, and it was a follow-up visit, and it was just a few days before Thanksgiving, around this time of the year in 2020. And I remember sitting there asking him those hard questions. Like, what would it look like? What will it look like for me to die? Am I going to just continue blowing up like a Goodyear blimp and then imploding or exploding? Because that's how I felt. And I knew, I felt I didn't have much time left. And so, as I was talking with my doctor and sharing my thoughts, asking him, asking him these questions, he was about to answer them when my phone rang. And I looked down, and caller ID told me it was the doctor from the clinical trial. So I shared the phone screen with my cardiologist, and he said, "Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up." I have worked a long and hard time creating my dream team, and I have that now with my care partners,
Mhm.
with my clinician, my care team. So I picked up the phone, and he said, "We figured it out, and we can approve you because of the holidays. We can't get you in until January." So January 11th, 21 was the first day of the rest of my life.
Wow.
Yeah, and I felt it immediately upon coming out of the medication.
Mhm.
I remember laying there in bed, and I'm not in pain. I've had open heart surgery, so I know what pain is.
Mhm.
Um, and my nurse was quite funny. I don't even remember what she said, but she said something that made me laugh, and not just, giggle, but a
Yeah.
true belly laugh. And that moment was very impactful for me because at that very moment, I realized that I had stopped laughing so I could breathe.
Mhm. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And so I got goosebumps. Um, that told me everything I needed to know. And I set forth. So um, those 2 years when I was in hospice, I spent a lot of time, and I just want to preface this that we need to bring attention to mental health,
Yes.
especially with patients,
Hmm.
patients who are not doing well, and there's no hope for them to continue to do well. So in those 2 years that I was in hospice, you can imagine every day the fight it was mentally. Um, just that the mental fight added on to all the other fights, right? So it's
Right.
not just one, it's many. And so um, therapy isn't easy to come by for a lot of us, for a lot of
Yeah.
different reasons. So I created my back deck I dubbed Mary's therapy room. And I remember going out on that deck from the moment my eyes opened up till the time it was to come in the evening. And I would spend all those hours on my deck. And I would, um, when you get that close to death where you can smell it, it makes you like go inside deeper. And I remember being on that deck and appreciating how the sunlight would hit the leaves on the trees and the little breeze would make them dance and things that I would never really pay attention to before. And every day was that was my experience, just like getting grounded in Mother Nature. And during those 2 years, I made a lot of promises to God,
Mm.
having no idea what I was doing or how I was going to keep those promises. So 2 years. So January 11th, 21 was the procedure. In the 2 years, you would think that, okay, having that kind of impact, waking up out of procedure, you're feeling like that you're good to go.
Yeah.
But I wasn't. So the 2 years that followed that, I didn't realize it at the time, but I now reflecting back, I get it. I was in a deep, dark place. I felt
Mm.
like I was a mere fixture in my home. There was no purpose,
Wow.
no life. I wasn't thriving. I was, I guess you could say, just barely surviving at that point, even after the procedure.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't until I had, and I hold this so dear, this is one of the reasons why I created Heartbridge. It
Hmm.
wasn't until I connected with one of the clinical trial um, engineers who created Evoke. I
Hmm.
had a great opportunity on meeting the team and asking them questions. And it wasn't until my meeting with them when they shared my story through their lens
Mm.
did it connect that I needed to do something. I needed to start sharing my story. And I really didn't know at that point, what that all was going to look like. It started out with just a blog on Facebook for patients,
Hmm.
sharing my story, not necessarily all focused on clinical trials, but certainly that's part of it because that is a major part of my story.
Hmm.
But then it went from there to I need to go further. And all this I'm being pulled. None of what I'm doing today was a plan in my playbook. It all just
Yeah.
came about by this significant pull that's guiding me through all this. So I went on 3, 4 months after creating the blog. I created Heart to Heart Talk, which is my podcast,
Hmm.
where I highlight patient stories, bring on professionals like Dr. Marlyn is on season 3, episode 1 of my podcast entitled Clinical Trials and Systemic Change. I'm looking
Hmm.
forward to this season. Got a lot of
Yes.
podcast interviews I'm doing this week. It's going to be exciting.
Yes, it is.
Um, and so, going on between the podcast and the blog and my newsletter, I still felt this push, like there's such an emptiness in
Mm,
the bridge I'm trying to build. And so that's
right.
how Heartbridge came about. Heartbridge is putting in place everything that was missing in my journey that would have made my journey that much better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are first off, I want to say thank you so much for sharing your story. And I am glad you're here and your resilience shows, right?
Thank
You're
you.
resilient, you're here. I cannot imagine being in hospice, right? That means everyone around you is actually just keeping you comfortable, right? Am I correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
To be here right now. And I just thank you so much for sharing your story and helping us as people in clinical trials, right? How can we do better? Right? How can we do better for you? What was the things, what are some of the things that was missing in your care, in the interactions that you'd like to share with us?
Um, Communication.
Hmm.
Communication. That goes such a long way. Just simple communication from the get-go. Like when I was applying, I had all the attention I ever wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
But between applying, that emptiness, a simple email saying, "We've not forgotten you,"
Wow.
something
Mm-hmm.
to tie in that emptiness, to fill in that emptiness. Um, and then after the procedure, you go in, I don't remember, every 6 months, the first year,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's yearly after that. But until your appointment, you don't hear nothing.
Wow.
There's nothing. You know, uh, I would be curious on, I essentially gave my life for this study. I'd like to know a
You're
little
right.
more, you know? Um, and when I say that, the life I had left, right, of
Right.
this
Yes.
study, um, and I still would like to know. I mean, I read as, um, I'm very proud to be one of the first women in the US to receive the Evoke valve. And
Yeah.
my story was submitted to CMS. Help me with this, CMS, Medicare Services.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
My story was submitted to that for coverage.
Yeah.
And so I'm very proud that I've been able to do that, but there's still that so much missing. You know,
Yes.
getting it, getting coverage is one thing, getting access is another, right?
Wow.
And not only
Yeah.
that, but I, I hear clinical trials, one, have issues finding people to do their stuff.
Yeah.
And two, once they get them, they can't keep them. Well, you
Right.
know what? My experience is you drop the ball too damn much. And people get
Please tell
tired.
us. Tell
Yeah.
us.
We
Yes.
get
Tell
tired. We're
us.
already tired fighting for our health and our life.
Lives.
And
Right.
so now we gotta fight you too. You know? I
Yeah.
I want I want a bridge between our lived experience and what
Uh-huh.
you all want.
Right.
And I think if we build that bridge together, it'll be a win-win. Patients will be happy. They'll be more than happy to participate in your
Mhm. Right.
studies. You won't have to try to sell them on it.
Right.
You won't have to try to sell them on it. And any advertising that you do, you're wasting your dollars. You need to come to us, talk to us, tell us why your study would benefit me.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, through all this and through the emptiness, the voids, Heartbridge Collective is here to bridge patients and care partners' lived
Hmm.
experience with those who are creating our future health.
Yeah.
It's simple, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really a space to talk to patients and get their ideas.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
essentially you think it would be an easy, right? I mean, but
Yes.
then
Yes.
the politics come in, you know? It's not just cut and dry. There's this whole IRB. institutional review boards,
Board. Hmm.
policymakers, and rightfully so. They need to be doing what they're doing to protect patients.
Yeah.
At some point, I feel like there's overreach, there's overlook, there's too much on one side. You got to find a balance, and that's in everything in life.
Yeah.
So I just feel like Heartbridge Collective can help everybody come to a balance to
Yes.
support so that everybody wins.
Yes. That is so true, Mary. I want to like dive in deeper on your experiences during the clinical trial. You felt like there wasn't enough communication, right?
Hmm.
So first you were like given a lot of attention, then you got approved, you got the study, and then it's like
Hmm.
there were gaps in the communication. How can what are some of the things you would have liked to happen during those times? What are some of the questions you had that you were hoping that, the communication would clarify?
I think I can answer both those questions with one answer,
Yeah.
and that is patient dashboard. Patient go to a dashboard in their clinical trial and find out their portion that's being that's
Mm,
participating in the study. Not everybody. We understand privacy,
privacy, yeah.
right? We understand that because
Right.
we want our stuff to be private as well.
Right.
But there should be a way, if everybody, like I said, comes to the middle
Yeah,
and
yes.
keeping patient at the focal point, there should be a way that IRB, these research companies, the patients can come together in the middle of the road and find common ground to make that happen. What that
Right.
would mean for a patient like me, oh my goodness. Imagine being denied twice for a clinical trial and not having any access to information versus logging into a website
Mm-hmm.
and finding out, okay, Mary Burrell, this is where you are in the process. This is what's going to happen,
Right.
right? I mean, all vague, but even if it's vague, anything for the patient would help them mentally deal with what they're experiencing and maybe make them
Yeah.
fight harder to want to save themselves. I have seen where patients give up. They don't feel like people care.
Mm,
That would have been very easy for me to give up.
yeah. Thank you. Um, wow. It's sort of not crazy, but most of the time I'm talking on the, the scientist side, the data side and the
Mhm.
rules and inclusion and exclusion criteria and the IRB and ICF and your number is one
All
point
the
above, so
acronyms.
you can't be on the trial. And then here I am speaking to you as a real life person, right? I
Mhm.
think if we remember that there is a person in all of this, right? It's not just, okay, like in your case, the size of the valve was too big or too small, like kind of like, okay, there's a person. How can we make it work for Mary, right? Like make it be so that it's a person. And I understand that's what Heartbridge is gonna do, right?
Mhm.
So that there is gonna be when the sponsors are making the devices or drug, they have that direct live experience. Like the
Mhm.
people that are in there, um, that are living through it, so we can be more, how I like to say, more human, right? More
Yeah.
human and trusting um, about it.
Look, the data that you guys are looking for is in our stories. You're not going to get them unless you talk to us.
Wow, say that again. Say that again. Okay. Yes.
The data
Yes.
that you're looking for is in our stories. That's the data
Yes.
that really matters.
That is so true. That is so true. Um, yeah. Because I really let's go back to you're in the trial, right?
Hmm.
Now you've done all of this. Now let's say someone else wants to join. What do you think? are some of the fears, or in your experience, what keep people from like trusting clinical research? Is it because of the communication things? Like what do you think is really the issue? Is it what do you think is the issue there?
I think it's all of the above. I think it's equally all of the above.
Mm,
Awareness, understanding,
mm-hmm.
what's in it for me, that kind of always
Right.
kind of gets glossed over, you know.
Right.
Um, Communication, care,
Yeah.
honesty.
Care.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's just being human and um
Is it hard? I mean, I know our
uh
world is really hard today. I get that, but we are all human.
yes, we are all human. And sometimes we forget that.
Mhm.
Sometimes scientists, sometimes, project managers and the CRCs, um, we forget that and we fail in patients that way. And um, we're on the same page. I'm like, that's the reason we keep struggling.
Yeah.
That's the reason we keep struggling because we're shying away from the hard conversations, from the relationships,
Mm.
and from the, long-term um understanding, right? You can't
Yeah.
just show up. This level of understanding that you're providing to me right now and to all of us in the room, that cannot be gained by some quick flyer or just showing up for 2 minutes. It cannot be, it has to be like a conversation, a back and forth, understanding that we are human and we're thriving for the same thing.
Kind of like dating. Kind of like
Yeah.
dating.
Yes.
I'll just
It's
leave it
it- it's
there.
a it's a yeah, it's like a give and take, and you're getting to know each other, and it takes
Mhm.
time. It takes time. Um, what kind of support, emotional, informational, practical, would make participation feel more doable?
Well, I think I'm just going to pitch Heartbridge because I believe that's
Yeah.
a big thing is
Yeah.
having somebody who has walked that path,
Mm-hmm.
walk it with you while you are starting your path. So at Heartbridge, we match patients with mentors who have already walked a similar road. So on their journey, they um, can find out more about their disease or the
Mm-hmm.
disease. They can find out, maybe find their voice in that, and maybe they want to share too.
Mm.
When you have somebody who you can trust,
Yeah.
ask your questions to because they just went through it, there's no doctor that can do that. Mm. There's
Yeah.
no nurse that can do that, not unless they have walked that path.
The path.
So we match patients with mentors who have walked a similar path. They
Mm-hmm.
walk the journey through. Right now, we're looking for a pilot. We're
Mm-hmm.
interested in doing a small pilot with a clinical trial where we can accept a couple of these heart patients who are going through these transcatheter procedures,
Yeah.
um, and see proof of concept. See, you know, what what imp- see how much improvement we have gained or what we need to do to see that improvement.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I will tell you, we have about 10 patients right now on the bridge,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them I met at diagnoses, was able to walk with her through it, and she is now still in the bridge, still participating. The other ladies that are in, we have mostly ladies, which is interesting, which is
Mm-hmm.
for me, I am focused on women
Yes.
because we're never in any studies. So
The diversity there
yeah, yeah,
lacks.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do focus my voice on women clinical trials and heart disease,
Mm-hmm.
um, specifically heart valve disease, and more importantly, tricuspid valve and mitral valve, because those are the two that don't get so much attention, especially tricuspid.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, well, thank you so much because I'm hearing the support that's needed has to come from experience almost, right? It has to come from lived experience, right? To provide that emotional support. Um, I honestly would not understand what it is like to be on hospice, right? I can read books, I can listen to your story, I can, be empathetic, but I like unless you've lived it, there's another level that comes from that live experience. And um I'm so happy that Heartbridge is doing that, right? So
Yeah.
that emotional connection, and then you mentioned the informational, just sharing information with the patients and the participants, right? Sharing about where they are, what their results were, just like some timeline, something other than all the
Absolutely.
attention, silence, hey, come in 6 months, silence, don't know what's going on, right? And that practical, informational aspect of it.
Allow us to be part of the process. We are in the process, so allow us to participate in that.
Can you share a little bit more? Allow you to participate. How? How would how would we do that?
Feedback, talk to us, tell us what our participation did to change, to move the marker.
Okay.
More information. I'm giving you my body. Give me back information about how this all changed.
Right.
Or if
Not
it didn't,
just your data per se, but like the big picture.
the
The
whole
big
picture. Yes.
picture of, this is what we're studying. This is
This is why
how.
we're studying it. Like when I went in, I had no idea. Like I said, I heard of clinical trials, had no idea really what was all involved. So when I went in, I had no clue. So it would have
Mm,
been nice, even at that late hour, to have a snapshot of what I was getting myself into. I was handed a stack of papers. Now, mind you, I'm been 2 years in hospice. I'm sicker than a dog. And they
yes.
give me a stack of papers that they expect me to read, understand, and sign.
In 30 minutes?
I read the first page on it, swimming in confusion and nausea. I went to that last page, signed and dated it, and handed it back to her. And was that consent?
Not on IRB standards, that was not.
Yeah.
We come back to this again, right?
And
There
it's
are the
not just the
rules,
clinical trial that I participated. These are
standards.
standard,
Yeah. Yeah.
standard.
That's the status quo right there. That's the status
Systemic
quo.
change is needed.
Systemic change is needed. Exactly. Um, wow. There's something you said there about getting on a trial and having not heard about a trial until you were on a trial.
Hmm.
That has to be a lot because it's not just your part that but you never. So this is like all brand new. So what did you think it was the first time?
To be honest with you, I didn't even think. I just knew, I just saw this door open and I went head first. Head first, because I figured, I got death here and hope here.
Right.
Even if hope was sketchy,
Yeah.
at least I had sketchy hope versus death. You see,
Yeah.
something's better than we
Sketchy.
got.
That word, yeah, that
Yeah.
word tells a lot. How we appear or how clinical trials appear.
Yes.
And yes, um, I'm gonna ask you a hard question. Um, if you weren't in that like life or death, right? I know some people are not in life or death. Clinical
Right.
trials are not, it's not life or death.
They
Would
have
you still
options.
have done that sketchy hope, Because
I think I would have. Okay, so we take hospice out, and I'm just a sick girl, right?
right, you're just a sick,
Medication's not working. I can't get
right,
my open heart surgery. Am I
right,
open to doing this new transcatheter
right,
voodoo
right,
stuff?
right. So it's not like you're on death's door. You're
Right.
just like,
I don't. If everything played out that same exact way, minus the hospice,
yes.
probably not, because I didn't know anything. I did not know anything. Hello? right? All
Wow.
I knew was it was going to replace my tricuspid valve. I didn't have time at that point to educate and want to know, right? Um, but if I had taken that piece out and I had the time, I would want to know. Well, you're offering me this clinical trial. Why? What about me and my medical makeup do you think this will help? And at what level?
Yeah.
What do you hope to get out of this if I do participate?
Wow.
What's the end zone?
Wow. Thank you. As Lisa said in the chat, profound.
I
That
couldn't
is,
disagree.
yes, that
Thank
is,
you.
um, we got to change that. Clinical trials is
Absolutely.
sketchy, right? That word really triggered something in me, and I'm almost feeling
Because
it in my
patients are
body
probably
because,
thinking that. You know, think about
yes,
the history. I mean, we talked about in this in the episode one of season three,
yeah,
the history of clinical trials. It's better now, but you could still go a long way to go.
a very long way to go.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
you're
here to
you're
try to
saying
help you.
if it wasn't for hospice, you would be like, they should approach you. The approach should be more of, hey, this is a trial. We're working to improve survival by, designing a new valve for your heart. Your participation would help us, ensure that it works well and it's designed well, and you'll help us, better it so that more people can survive. That would work better than here's a stack, sign it so you can get on.
Yes. Yes. In all honesty, I was very, very sick when I was speaking with the doctors initially.
Yeah,
And so that part is very vague. But with the paperwork, the time limit, flipping to
yeah.
that bad page, that's all very vivid in my mind. Yes. And that needs to change.
Definitely. It does. It does. And the work you're doing with Heartbridge and our conversations, we're gonna change that because I'm on a mission to make sure everybody hears about clinical trial.
Yeah.
So when they do get an opportunity, they at least know, oh yeah, that's how new medicines and new devices, like at least know that one line. This is what it's going towards, right?
Yep.
This is where we are. This is why we're doing this. Like just get that one part. Um, wow.
We can do it, Marlon. We can, if
Yes.
we all come together,
Oh, yes, we
we
can.
can do it. And so I'm happy to have the Heart Bridge be that bridge to bring
Yeah.
both worlds together. We just
Yes.
need to work on how are we going to do that. And that starts with changing how people think.
Yes. And change is hard, right? Change,
Yeah.
change is hard. And I'll be honest, everything comes down to the bottom line, right? It's, it, I mean, I keep it real. That's,
Yeah, no,
that's,
you know
that's,
what?
that's the bottom
Money
line.
rules this world. And
Yeah.
so my only question, since you brought this up, is
Yeah.
aren't these clinical trial companies tired of wasting money?
Good
I mean, I'm
question.
just asking a question as a patient, you know. Heartbridge Collective can really help both sides.
Yeah.
Just, you know, it takes just one pilot to prove it.
Yeah. It does. I mean, I've done there's so many publications you'll think that there isn't, but there's publications. Like one amendment is like hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? 3 more years added on because now we're like 10 to 15 years, and it's because of all of these things, right? Not
Can I ask a
communicated, not
question?
provided information. Yes. Sure.
So, um, bringing the patient's lived experience into the beginning of it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
how do you see that changing? No, how, what do you think is the biggest obstacle in having that accomplished, bringing the patient's voice to the very beginning of conversation?
That's um That's a good question. And I'll be honest, it's something that I've thought about. Like I've even talked to like startups, startups who are just in the, yeah, I got the latest stuff. and just asking them questions. Have you talked to a patient yet? No, right? They have not. All they're
Mhm.
studying about is their device. And I'm like, who says the patient wants your device, right? And really, it's a matter of um change, mindset change.
Mhm.
That is all. That is
So
all. All the legal stuff, all that they're talking about is just a mindset change that you will have the patience and listen to them. Because one of the things that we're good at in the clinical research industry is figure out what the problem is, right? Said we need patients on the table. So guess what? We just bring patients on the table and we don't listen to them. So there's patients sitting on the table. That's not what we're talking about, right, Mary? We're not talking
no,
about it. Having
not
the
at all.
patients there and actually using their voice and giving them, value.
Yeah.
There is nothing holding that back. There is nothing that should stop that.
So
That's my take.
interesting that you say that. So imagine um, patients being matched with other
Hmm.
patients who've experienced that, and then on the other side of that bridge, a pool of patients, experienced patients with clinical trials, are there for researchers and clinical trial people to have access to talk to see how they can further move that marker.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there are a couple, I can't get their names right now, but there are a couple big institutions that have done this, right? Literally had this, did a trial run, had the patients all the way. But it still hasn't taken on like a big, industry-wide approach. It's almost like, let's try this out and see how it goes. And we saw a 30% increase and we saw everything is working. And then somewhere along the line, most of those just kind of like died off, whether it was like funding or whatever. Most of them have died off. I know there's a few sponsors that kept it going and are seeing the results. But when it comes to industry-wide, it's far and few between. And I'll be honest, it's speed. That's all we care about, the
Yeah.
speed. And I bet there's a quote, but like we're trying to speed up so much that we're slowing down. Does that make sense?
Yes,
We're
yes.
rushing
Makes
through
sense.
everything that we're slowing ourselves down. We're not building relationships, we're not communicating, we're not listening to the patients. And so we're running ahead, building entire studies that
Making more
not
work
going to
for
work.
yourself.
Right, that's not going to work. And when it gets to the patient, then you have to go back and make that change and then come back. Like if you had taken that extra, month to talk to a patient, it
And
would
all
have
that
saved you
time
the
the
three
patient's
years.
being affected.
And that's what gets me every time, is that we're forgetting that there are people that when you take 10 years to get something, that's 10 years of people suffering
Mm-hmm.
that you could have done in 5. It's like
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
frustrated. So
Yeah.
frustrating. Um, so frustrating. Yeah. In the chat, Lisa said, I think clinical trials are usually viewed as a business venture, not a service, a solution to a problem. That is so true.
The
Um,
researchers may think differently, but the clinical trial people, I do agree with that.
I agree as well because if it was profitable to solve this problem, it would have been solved. I I
True, true.
honestly I honestly think that it is this problem is more human and relational than, profit. Like in business they call it like the painkiller and the vitamin. This is more like, oh yeah, that would be a nice to have, not like we need it right now or we're gonna,
Right.
yeah. And I really believe like, yeah, that's wow. Well, this This has been great. We got 10 minutes left. I just want to open up. I do have more questions, but I just want to open up to the floor. If anyone has any questions for Mary or myself, about clinical trials or anything, as a matter of fact, you feel free to just jump in and unmute yourself and share. All right. So, while you guys are thinking, oh, thank you. Yeah, I really wanted to know, um, what do you think makes it hard, like to build relationships before the study starts? So I know with Heartbreak Collective, there's going to be something on the inside, right? That's going to be there. But maybe you can help us with I'm looking from the angle that I do, which is community outreach out in the community, right? And I'm going around to people telling them about clinical trials, but they still, there's a lot of fear and stuff going along with it. Do you have any tips on how to best approach people, um, how best to approach to build relationships, not just with patient, but with the general before a study starts?
My first question would be, when you go to these communities, what are you doing? Are you going there with a event table all about clinical trials? Are you there interacting within the community? And the clinical trial is there if and when it comes up.
So when I go personally, with as insightful intellect, it's more of, here is what clinical trials is, here are some myths, stop by my table, talk to me about clinical trials. Not necessarily recruiting for anything specific or even have a study in mind. It's more of education in, the myths around it, and I'm just gonna tell you the benefits of it. So that's what I do when I go out. And most of the time it's on a table or like tomorrow, I'm gonna go speak to a elementary class, grade 4, and I'm gonna just say clinical trials, what it's about and what we do, right? Looking for new medicines. Just that simple. That's all I do.
I
That's
love
all
that
I
you're
do.
going to the grade schools. Because, I mean,
Yes.
why not start there, right? I remember, I'm going to age myself now, but I remember when I was in elementary school, we had various electives that we could do, like cooking and home ec and things like that.
Yeah.
And they don't have that anymore. And so then you think about, and this is just an analogy, and then you think, these kids grow up and then how do they know these things? How do, and so bringing this into, I think that's fabulous. I think that's great.
Yeah. So how coming back to my question, how would we do that? Like what are some words that I can say, right? Because you're a patient. Let's say you came up to me at a health fair, or what would be welcoming words? I guess that's what I'm asking. Welcoming words or any tips that you can give me. I'd appreciate it.
Oh, that's a hard question.
Well, I mean, share. You can share about why you think it's hard. Well, what oh, sorry.
That's
What
okay.
is hard about it? Like,
It's hard because my experience was not that. I don't know how to flip
okay.
from being, this hospice person
Hmm.
and from that point forward, right?
Right.
So
So
if
if you were to go right now, um, well, better yet, um, how do you tell people about clinical trials?
I tell them that whatever they heard, they need to forget because times changed, education has changed, and so they need to get what they current with the information that they are making decisions, saving decisions with. first of all. And second of all, make sure wherever you go to find that information is reputable and not on Facebook.
Thank you. That's it right there. Whatever you heard,
Look, I'm
I'm
in
writing
some of
that.
these groups on Facebook, and it
Yeah,
is frightening, frightening to see some of this
yeah,
information that's being passed. And most of it is personal experience. But just
yeah.
because there's a difference between personal experience and lived experience in my mind, right? Personal experience is just somebody had experienced a situation and they were told that clinical trials were killing people. We'll just
Mm-hmm.
say that, right?
Right.
Versus lived experience is that they've lived in a situation where they became educated on what they're lived on how to fix what they're living with, right? So personal perspective is just somebody's opinion versus somebody who's actually lived it and has experienced it. So I
Got
like
it.
to share that, if you have been told something about clinical trials, I encourage you to make sure that, you find that the information that you received is factual. It's not a personal, it's not a person's perspective of what they've heard or what they've experienced, because all of our lived experiences are different, even though they're similar. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And it actually is a nice way to sort of, bring everything full circle, right?
Yeah.
So when patients lead, research becomes human again. That's it.
And a
So,
win-win for
and
everybody.
a win-win for everyone. We
Yeah.
can add that. Yeah, and a
Yeah.
win-win for everyone. So I think if you could leave one message for the researchers, what would it be?
Loosen that tie up a little bit.
Relax.
Yeah, chill out. Breathe. Let it flow. Let's just have a conversation.
Just relax.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
data is important, but so aren't we? And so, um, I don't know, maybe blinders, right? Because they're so focused on the data, the numbers, the N1,
Yes, yes.
that if they just kind of take that blinder off, they will see there's more than N1. And the N1 that they're looking for is really over here in this conversation, not in my chart.
Right. The data is in the stories. I remember that. The data is in the patient stories. And one message for the patients.
Don't listen to anybody else. Find out for yourself. That's the only way you're really
Thank
going to trust what you hear or what you see,
mm,
is finding out for yourself. And by doing that, it'll make life a lot easier. Just make sure
no,
that you use reputable sites. And if you don't know, start asking questions. And if you don't understand the answers they're giving you, ask them to speak your language so that you do
thank you.
understand what they're saying.
That's
Don't stop asking. It's worth keep at it.
keep asking, keep
Yeah.
asking. That's a great one. So, we're at the end. So just to summarize, well, our key takeaways, patients are the partners in research, right? Let's make them active parts. And mental health, we talked about that, must be integrated into the clinical, journey, right? We must understand or have some support for people when they are on the trials, before the trials, during the trials. And then, as Heartbridge does, collaboration between the patients and the professionals will help to change, will lead to that systematic change.
I
That's
believe so.
yes, and I'm right there with you. So feel free to connect with Mary. Mary, if you can drop your information in the chat, Heartbridge Collective, or You can connect with me as well on LinkedIn. Um, and then Lisa, thank you so much. You said I was part of the Avon Foundation Community Education Outreach Elective initiative that was a very successful community engagement and trust building. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Um, awesome webinar. Awesome. Thank you guys for being here. I gonna put in there. I do have a group called Community Engagement Alliance, and it's just a place to talk about how can we get the patients in, right? Get the patients. How can we engage the patients as humans? That's the way I need to put it. How can we help to build trust and teach us as researchers, since we have those blinders on, as Mary said, like how can we take those off and start seeing um the real, the real data, which is the people, right? Which is the participants. All right, so this is the end. If you guys don't have any questions, thank you so much for joining. And
Thank you,
thank you
Marlyn, for
again,
having
Mary.
me.
Thank you so much. I know we're going to be talking about
Oh,
this later,
oh,
this
always,
always. Uh,
always. We can't let it stop. We can't
we
stop talking about it.
we cannot, because systematic change is coming.
It
We're gonna
is.
be drivers of that.
It
Oh,
is.
thank you
I
so
agree.
much again,
Thank you
Mary.
as well. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your support.
Have a good day.
You too.